invocation offered by Miss Angela Verdell, followed by the pledge.
May we bow our heads for a word of prayer, please. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight thanking you for this gathering, Lord. We thank you for this community. We thank you for this school district, Lord, and all the children that you've entrusted in our care. Lord, right now we ask that you would just be a God in the midst, that you would lead and guide us, that you would give us discernment and wisdom so that we can go forth and carry out your will, so that it is pleasing in your sight. These and many blessings we ask in your Son, Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
And we'll have our pledge offered up by Kenyaya Johnson, 4th grade student from Franklin Elementary. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. I think that deserves a round of applause. Okay. Thank you. All right, we do have a quorum. We do not have anyone signed up for open forum tonight. Board members, I need a motion and a second to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
I'll second that. Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Any opposed? It is unanimous. We'll move to item number 6, which is the process for superintendent search. It will be discussed tonight by Dr. Mike Waldrop, who is the Executive Director of the Mississippi School Board Association. Dr. Waldrop, thank you very much for being here with us tonight.
I appreciate the opportunity to be here. This is where I like to spend my time, so thanks for the invitation. Not probably, the most important decision you'll make as a board member, you're in the process of making right now, and that's going to be who will be your next superintendent. And in Mississippi, the stakes are really, really high with the current accreditation. So you know the criteria you use to determine this and how you go about this selection process, I think is going to be critical to you, to your schools, but also to your community. So we appreciate the opportunity to work with and assist you as you take on this most important process. There are numerous decisions you're going to have to make as a board, and we'll help you make these decisions as you go through them. The first thing you're going to have to determine is, what do you want in a superintendent? What characteristics, what abilities, what traits do you want in a superintendent? The board will need to do a survey that will kind of get input from all 5 board members on what's important to each individual board members. And you've also got to make a decision as you establish the criteria for your next superintendent. How extensive do you want to involve your existing staff and your community in helping you establish this criteria for a new superintendent, which will get into community meetings, we'll get into staff meetings, how those meetings are to be structured. What we have found that when you deal with staff and them trying to help you with the criteria, it's probably better to have administrative staff do a meeting, and then teachers do a meeting, and then support staff do a meeting. When you get into community meetings, you've got all kind of choices. You can break it down into certain community groups and meet with them to get their input, or you can just have one large community meeting. So that's a decision you're also going to have to consider. And once you've got your criteria, then you need to decide, what are your timelines? When you think about timelines for having a superintendent in place, what we always suggest is that you begin with the end in mind. When do you want to have a superintendent here? Y'all have the luxury, this is really a good thing, of having plenty of time to do this and to get it right. So I would encourage you strongly not to rush into this process. Take your time because you have time, and that's a luxury that most boards do not have. Take your time in doing this search and be sure you get the right person here. So developing the criteria, involving the community and what all that entails, board coming together as a unified body on their criteria and how that is entailed, how you do that are all going to be key. Now, once you establish the position, it's going to take some time to develop a advertising brochure, which will have the criteria plus demographics of the school district and other pertinent information. Then you're going to have to determine how long you want to advertise for the position. Now, what we generally recommend is you go 6 weeks to 2 months. We have found in doing searches where boards have shortened that timeline, and we've had some do 3, 4, and 5 weeks, that you really do not get a real strong pool if you limit the amount of weeks for the search. So you're looking at whatever you would prefer, 6 weeks or maybe 2 months to advertise. Now, during that period, and I speak from how we do it, there may be other search groups that do it differently, but this is what we call the down period. From the time you advertise to the time you receive a report from us, it's going to be about 2 months of downtime, which means you won't have any reports from us. We won't be meeting with you because we'll be waiting for the applications to come in. And normally what we see, just about every application comes in on the last day. Now, why, we don't know, but we do know that's a fact. And then it takes a couple of weeks to check references on all of these people. And then depending on how many apply, it could easily take 2 to 3 weeks to interview. If you have a small pool, maybe a week. If you've got a larger pool, maybe 3 weeks. But somewhere between a week to 3 weeks to interview these candidates. And I think that's a real crucial aspect of any superintendent search, is having someone that has the expertise to certify to you that the people that are presented that match your criteria, understanding what your school district needs, understanding the personalities of the board, to be able to say to you that we think this person meets your criteria and also would be a good match for this board as far as not only their technical abilities, but also their ability to get along with the various personalities on the board, because I know all of y'all, your personalities very well. So what we are finding is superintendents that aren't successful, it's generally more to do with their inability to get along with the board than it is their technical side. So those two elements have to be screened, and those are screened through the interview process and contacting references on these people from previous employers and current employers. And I would recommend that we go back at least, regardless of who y'all use, require at least the last 2 or 3 employees. Don't just take letters of references. So that, and again, y'all have the luxury to do that, to really allow some time to be sure that these people are properly screened. And then once you get the candidates in, we will present a report to you, and it will be a very comprehensive report on every candidate, what their weaknesses are, what their strengths are based on what we found out from their application, from the interviews, and from the references checks. And then everything we have is turned over to you so that you can look at everything in helping make your decision. Now, we will offer a professional opinion on the technical side and what we found out in talking with previous employees on who we think would be your top 2, 3, or 4 candidates if y'all would like for us to do that. But that's optional, and it's strictly y'all's call, because once we do the report, we're going to give you everything, and we'll tell you everything we know about the candidates. We'll tell you everything we've heard about them. We'll tell you the difference. Here's facts. Here's what we've heard, because we don't want y'all to get into the situation like the state board got in, with their new superintendent, and then there was something that came up that was embarrassing, and it really had nothing to do with the state superintendent other than she was with the school district when it happened, so it's no reflection on her. But the board asked the search group, did you know this? And they said, yeah, but we didn't think that this was anything we needed to tell y'all since it had nothing to do with the state superintendent. Well, y'all need to know everything. If there's any issues in the school district, whether the candidates are a part of it or not, you don't want the newspaper to find it out once you've hired the candidate, and then y'all find it out after the fact. So facts, what we've heard, this we know for truth, is this we don't know, we've just heard it. Y'all just, if you're going to hire this candidate, you might want to probe when you do your investigation of the candidates. So on a search group would sort all the applications and develop for you a very comprehensive report. The summary of the report would be delivered to the board. Also, upon request, we can help you structure your interview questions once you get to your interview phase around the criteria. We have found a lot of times that boards have criteria, and then when they start questioning the candidates through interviews, they don't even question them on the criteria that they established. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to use all the questions, but you will have some questions that are applicable to every item if y'all so choose to utilize us in that regard. We'll help you structure those interview questions. And then you'll have to decide how you want to interview the candidates, when you want to interview the candidates, who's going to contact the candidates and set up the interviews once y'all have established your date and time. Now, what we all would recommend is that you let the search group, y'all determine who you want to interview, when you want to interview them, and let the search group call them, contact them, set up the interviews, because this maintains the confidentiality of the candidates. Sometimes good candidates do not want the public to know that they've applied until they get to a higher level in the search, because they do not want to upset their community if they're real strong candidates. They do not want to upset their board until the appropriate time. And then you'll determine who to interview, and if you've got to determine if you want to interview them in public or if you want to interview them in private. We are seeing more school boards interview in public, but there is a process that we recommend if you're going to interview in public, and we will assist y'all through that process. And it's not, we do not recommend that you let the public interview candidates. We recommend you let the public observe the interviews and maybe rate the candidates through some kind of rating, which we can provide for you a way to rate these candidates. Then once you get the ratings in from the community, if you choose to go this way, you can use that in your final decision. But remember, the final decision has got to rest with the board. You can get input, you can get suggestions, you can get ideas from the community, from the staff, from whomever. But the final decision rests with this school board. And that's the way it should be, since y'all are accountable for this. And one of the most important aspects of any good search is that once you get a superintendent in place, that you have a work session, agreed to about a 3-hour work session, where you can, what we call transition to the new superintendent. Superintendents that are not successful, we see more often than not, the problem is the board is holding them accountable for those things they have not communicated to the superintendent. So it's very important that once you get a superintendent in here, that we work with you in a work session to clearly define board expectations, clearly define the data that you will use to determine if the superintendent has met those expectations, and also set up monitoring schedules or help you set up monitoring schedules or benchmarks, so that at the end of the year, if your expectations are this, you don't have to wait 12 months to see if those expectations have been fulfilled. You have benchmarks where you can take corrective action throughout the year. Now again, y'all really have the luxury that most school boards and superintendent searches don't, and that's to really take your time in doing this. So at this point, I'll entertain questions. What I have for you are the contracts from the Mississippi School Boards Association, if you so choose to use us, and I'm going to leave them with your attorney. If you choose to use MSBA, your signed contract, when we receive it back in our office, will be our indication to begin the search. And the first step with us would be that Dr. Fisher come up and walk y'all through everything, checklist by checklist, on here's the process from A to Z. And he'll spend about 30 minutes with you on being sure everybody, you and the search group, the MSBA, are on the same page. You know the timelines. You know how all of this works. So I'm going to leave this with your attorney. Questions? Glenn?
Dr. Waller, if I had asked you this question when you were here a while back, but I want to see if there's been any change since you were here. And that is, how many school districts in the state of Mississippi are actively looking for a superintendent, or you anticipate maybe looking for one in the near future?
This has been the slowest year for superintendents. Right now, there are 6 superintendents that have said they'll be vacating the position as of June 30th. That's very low. Generally, it ranges somewhere between 15 to 20. So that's the very low. But again, it's hard to tell until January. That's when we really hear. But so far, 6 have announced that they will be vacating the position this year.
Let me ask you one other question, if I could. I know that over the years, of course, we've gone through a number of superintendent searches, and what I've observed is that the pool has shrunk.
Yes.
It's much smaller today than it may have been 20 years ago. Is that still the trend among superintendent searches?
Without a doubt. And we are also affiliated with the National Search Group through the NSBA, and we meet with them annually, and we even talk with other people that do what we do. So this is not a phenomenon of Mississippi. All over America, there are fewer and fewer people wanting to take on a superintendency. And it's primarily because of the intense accountability, the money not being what it once was, and the technology. Now, you know, through social media, something can show up on the internet about your school district, test data, whatever, and it's all over your community instantly. So there are a lot of real pressures that schools didn't have to deal with even eight or 9 years ago that they're having to deal with. So yes, the pool is much smaller. We have seen pools range, the ones we've done, from probably the top 35 or 36 to around 8 or 9. So you just never know. Now, I think one thing is going to be very important, that when y'all get ready to do this search, you be sure that you're unified as a board in the direction you're going, because when we do searches, and I'm sure this is true of all search groups, the candidates, the good candidates, will do research on the school district. They'll go back and research the newspaper, they'll look at the state accreditation, they'll look at all of this, and then they'll start asking me questions about, well, what was going on here, because they're trying to determine if this is something that they can manage, especially the more competent superintendents. Are they going to step into a divided situation where they'll be gone in 2 weeks, or are they going to step into a situation where the whole board and them are focused on certain criteria that the board wants to do? That's a very critical issue with your candidates, especially your top candidates.
If I could ask one more question, I'd appreciate it. The searches that y'all have been involved in recently, are you recommending that boards advertise on a regional basis, say like just a southeastern type of search, or go full-blown and have a nationwide search? What do y'all typically recommend?
With the technology these days, it's just as easy to go nationally as it is to go regionally, and I'll tell you what I'm talking about. Y'all, a decision you're going to have to decide is how much advertising you want to do. What we recommend to school boards, based on what we've seen, where we get information and we say to the candidates, where did you hear about this search? Based on that, what we're finding is newspapers are probably the least productive way to advertise. Magazines are the least productive way to advertise, and they're by far the most expensive way to advertise. Other than your local newspaper, I would think you would need to use your local newspaper. Be sure you advertise through your local newspaper. But you really aren't going to get much bang for your buck on national magazines, national or newspapers in New Orleans or Memphis or whatever. So what we would recommend you do, and this is where we found we get the most candidates, is one, we've got an extensive database that's got every school administrator in Mississippi in it. So you will touch every administrator in Mississippi with your announcement. And then we also have agreements with all our other organizations throughout America, school board associations, that we will advertise it through theirs. And this is where you get, they've got databases just like we do. This is where the information goes to the administrators in other states. We've also seen 2 or 3 online services that are pretty productive. There's 2 or 3 of them. They're really cheap, all month for $200 or something like that. And we'll identify those services for you. And there is one national publication that still gets a lot of hits is USA Today, not USA Today, Newsweek, not Newsweek, Education Weekly, thank you. And that's relatively inexpensive also. So when a board says, what is your opinion? What are the best avenues to advertise? I said, it's really not an issue with technology now, whether to go nationally or not. Why not go nationally? It's not going to cost you any more, and you may find your best candidate from out of state. And that's certainly what happened to your sister school, right down the road. They found one of their better candidates from out of state. So that's what I would suggest as your advertisement outlets. But we'll flesh all that out with you when Dr. Fisher gets up here.
Board members, any questions?
I do. Good to see you, Dr. Waldrop.
Good to see you.
Question. So should we not choose the Mississippi School Board Association to conduct our search? What services do we get just by being a member of the MSBA?
Yeah, you get this service, of all of the infrastructure, basically, of MSBA. What is the fee service, how that's determined, is what do you do for school districts that you don't do for every school district. So our superintendent searches come under a fee service, and that's the reason for it. But if y'all were wanted to come up and, me do a session with you on team building or what, that would be your... But also all our legislative advocacy and the time we spend, all of that is just membership service. We do that for everybody.
Okay, and so for any new superintendent that we get, you do offer training for new superintendents so that they can become familiar with what it is that they are to do? 2
ways we do that. Mm-hmm. One, it's really important that the board and superintendent come together almost immediately. And the other training we offer superintendents is through our basic board meeting training. We strongly encourage them to come to that training because what we have seen, a lot of times superintendents can come in and get cross with a board because they really don't understand the board's role. And it goes from extremes to some candidates thinking they don't even have a role and try to leave them out of everything. So it's very important that y'all understand the superintendent's role, and y'all have had all kind of training on that. But it's just as important that the superintendent understand y'all's role and y'all's legal obligations and responsibilities. And we spend a lot of time with that in our basic board training. So whoever y'all get, I strongly recommend they go through basic board training.
Board members, are there any additional questions? Just 1 or 2 that I have. As far as if you were to look on a national platform, do the timelines that you had just described to us change significantly? Is it kind of still adhere to the same projections going down the track as what was outlined in your talk?
Even if you go nationally, anywhere from 6 weeks to 2 months, if you go much past that, you're not going to enhance your pool. At least we haven't seen that. We saw one school district that really had it open for around 6 months, and it didn't enhance theirs much.
Okay. Board members, any additional questions? Dr. Waldrop, thank you very much for your time
Thank
this
you for the
evening.
opportunity to be with you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Have a good night. Okay, board members, we'll move on to item number 7, which is the Office of the Interim Superintendent. Ms. McGill?
Thank you, Mr. President. It is always a pleasure to have the opportunity for student recognition, and we're very excited tonight to recognize Corey Persons. Corey is a senior at Columbus High on the swim team, and we're honored to recognize Corey for the state champion 100-meter backstroke for 2 consecutive years. And we'd like to ask Corey to come forward and the board to present Corey with a certificate of recognition. While the board is coming down, Corey, come right over here to the center, please, sir. Corey's mother is Rhonda Persons. His swim coach is Jessica James, and of course, principal Jill Savely. He is an honor student, and so we're just very excited to recognize Corey for this tremendous accomplishment tonight. Mr. Spears.
Corey, on behalf of the trustees of the Columbus Municipal School District and everyone associated with this district, we greatly appreciate your effort and hard work, and I want to congratulate you on your success. Anything you'd like to say?
Thank y'all for allowing me to wear the good old Falcon cap for 6 years. It's been a real pleasure. I'd say it was a really good way to end out 6 years of training, not only with the Falcons, but 13 years of swimming in general. And it was just the best way to go out on top.
Congratulations, Corey. We're very proud of you.
Now, board members, we move to item B. Ms. McGill?
Okay. I'd like to just give an overview of our online policy review and revision process. We have been very busy with this process. It is a huge task. I want to thank our committee that is composed of Angela Verdale, Curry Fisher, Craig Shannon, Anthony Brown, Pam Lenore, Nancy Bragg, Janet Adams, and Jan Ballard. They've worked really hard, and we appreciate their efforts at moving us forward as we work with the Mississippi School Board Association and Kay Clay, who has been appointed to us to help us through this process. We met on November the 11th and began looking at Section A, which is School District Organization. Mrs. Clay, or Dr. Clay, is reviewing and comparing the current CMSD policies with those policies and with the policies that are currently on the table, which are those policies recommended by the Mississippi School Board Association. So we're in the process of reviewing those. We have had some phone conferences. Mrs. Lenore met with Kay Clay via phone in the past last week to begin compiling Section J, which is the student section, and that will be the next set of policies that we look at. Our next policy review and revision committee meeting will be on Thursday, December the 5th, where we will continue with Section A. We are placing Section A on the table tonight to consider, and those policies have been reviewed by Kay Clay with the School Board Association, and they are those policies recommended by the Mississippi School Board Association. Ms. Verdale or Ms. Fisher, do you have any additional comments? Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Board members, if there's no additional questions on the item, we will move to item number 8, which is to approve the minutes, which is items 8A through D. I need a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Do I have a second?
Second.
The items have been properly motioned and seconded. Any discussion?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am, Ms. Fisher.
Under item number 8, item A, there were actually 3 motions prior to the 4th motion being withdrawn. And that was on page 7 of the current minutes, under such other matters that may come before the board. This was on staff personnel items.
That is correct. So with this particular item,
I'm just noting that there were 3 motions. The 3rd motion is the motion that I abstained on.
Yes, ma'am.
Abstained on, and the 4th motion you rescinded. So there were a total of 4 motions, not 3.
okay. Thank you very much, Ms. Fisher.
You're welcome.
And as far as the minutes that are before us, can we modify the motion to include the modification that indicated by Ms. Fisher?
Yeah, I'll do so.
Do we have who made the motion, who seconded the motion? Is that where
It
we...
was,
They were all motions were made by Mr. Spears, and all
Yes.
seconds were by Mr.
Okay.
Latzenheiser.
Okay.
so board members, with your motion in second, will you modify your motion in second,
I did.
Ms. Turner, to include the adjustments to item A as noted by Ms. Fisher? Okay.
Just so the public will understand, basically, the same motion was made an additional time, so that's all. Everything else is going to be the same.
Yes.
Okay.
And just to make sure that it's correct in order, the first 2 motions, I voted no on. The 3rd motion, I abstained. The 4th motion was recalled, rescinded.
Correct. So with those adjustments, is there any additional discussion? All in favor of approving the minutes, please signify by raising your right hand. Any opposed? It is unanimous. Now we move to the consent agenda, which is item number 9. We have items A through H. Board members, I need a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
The item's been properly motioned and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor of approving the, Mr. Latzenheiser, you have discussion? Okay.
I'm getting ready to vote.
Okay. All in favor of approving the consent agenda items, please signify by raising your right hand. Any opposed? It is unanimous. Now we move to the Office of Personnel, Ms. Donna Mann, which is item number 10. Consideration to approve the staff personnel items. Board members, we've had time to review these items. I need a motion and a second to approve the staff personnel items.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
The item's been properly motioned and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor of approving the item, please signify by raising your right hand. Any opposed? It is unanimous. Next item on the list is 10B, which is the job description for an assistant band director. And attached to that is the assistant band director's job description. Board members, I need, let's see. This is not a consideration motion item, is it? Doesn't? Information? Okay. To modify that, consideration for the job description that's presented that we've reviewed. I need a motion and a second to approve the description of the job.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
The item has been properly motioned and seconded. Any discussion?
I have a question.
Sure.
How do you plan to recruit for this position?
we will advertise and follow our processes and procedures as we normally do for all new positions. We'll make sure that we get it out through our website and through MDE Teacher Center. You're welcome.
Board members, any additional discussion? All in favor of approving the item, please signify by raising your right hand. Any opposed? It is unanimous. Now we move to item number 11, which is the Office of the Deputy Superintendent, Mr. Shannon.
Thank you, Mr. President. Other board members, Mrs. McGill. The first item, item A, you do see the fundraising activities before you, and we do ask that the board consider those for approval. If you have any questions about those, I'd be more than happy to answer those at this time concerning fundraising.
Board members? I need a motion and a second to approve the fundraising activities request.
Second.
The item's been properly motioned and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor signify by raising your right hand. Any opposed? It is unanimous. Moving to item B.
We do have consideration for a field trip, out-of-state field trip there, and we would like the board to consider that for approval. A trip to Birmingham with Mrs. Cornwall's group.
Okay. Board members, I need a motion and a second to approve the field trip request.
So moved.
I'll second that. Any discussion? All in favor of approving the field trip request, please signify by raising your right hand. Any opposed? It is unanimous. Moving to item C, Mr. Shannon.
Third and final item, under C, consideration to approve facility use for Destination Imagination in April. We do have a group that would like to host that competition on a Saturday. We would like for the board to consider that on a Friday and Saturday, April 4th and 5th.
Mr. Shannon, one question I have for you is the fee structure. Is that correct? I know it was one thing that was noted to be corrected. The district fee.
Yes, sir. We apologize for that incorrect figure there. The employee fee should be combined with the district fee for a total of $152. Okay. We are not charging Destination Imagination to use our facility. Since our students are involved in that competition, that fee is to pay the custodians for cleanup and monitoring of the building. It should be one fee of $152 total.
All right. So, board members, with the modification, I make a motion with the modification to the fee structure of this consideration to approve CMSD facility usage with the changes. I need a second.
Second.
The item's been properly motioned and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Any opposed? It is unanimous. Thank you very much, Mr. Shannon. Now we move to item number 12, which is the Office of Testing and Special Services. Ms. Nancy Bragg.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Just a couple items to discuss with you tonight based on academic achievement. Wanted to talk to you for just a second about the new writing process that we have implemented in our district for grades 3 through 10. Each 9 weeks, the teachers are given a specific prompt that they will work with the students and follow through the process for writing so that we are able to improve on this overall process. They are working on the narrative prompt this 9 weeks, and we will do a final submission on this writing prompt for December the 13th. And teachers have gone through all of the stages of writing to help students to improve in this process, and we have a very detailed procedure that we follow with this writing. We're not so concerned on grades for writing, but we're concerned on the process of writing and writing correctly. And we feel like this is going to benefit our students very much in the very near future. And each 9 weeks, as I said, we will do complete another prompt based on the specific type of writing. So just wanted to update you guys on a new process that we're doing here. And as well, I just want to update you on what's happening. Real soon, we are going through our second testing for subject area testing. We did around in September, and the week we come back from Thanksgiving holidays, we will have our next round of subject area testing. And all the teachers have been trained. We've gone through the new process with them so that any new teachers that the Columbus High School has, everyone now has fulfilled their obligation for training and will be able to serve as test administrators, proctors, hall monitors, etc. We'll actually have that December the 3rd through the 10th, and our final writing prompt date, as I told you, is December the 13th, and then we'll have our second round of common assessments for the 9 weeks, December the 16th through the 19th, and that goes with grades 3 through 12. So we've got a lot going on in the month of November and December. Just kind of want to get you updated and let you know about some new things that we are carrying on throughout the district. Thank you. Any questions? Okay, Ms. Verdell.
Actually, it's a statement. I had the opportunity this week to go to the high school where they celebrated the honor roll students. I think it was 250 plus students.
Yes.
And I quickly did the math, and that was like almost 25% of the students.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if we could track what percent of our students each 9 weeks will be on or accomplish the honor roll, so that we kind of know what that data point is. Because I think that's a great thing to celebrate in our district. If we
You'd
could
like,
just keep up
you'd
with
like
that.
for us to report on how many are being recognized each 9
But
weeks?
not necessarily
Oh.
recognized, but how many students were on a roll for each 9 week across the district, so that we know what that data point is. If we have 40% of our students in the district on honor roll, that's just a great data point, and that's a
Yeah.
great thing to celebrate.
Okay.
So if we could keep up with that
Yeah.
across
okay.
each school,
So
that would
just
be
each
good.
month, you would like to kind of get the,
Each 9 weeks.
each
Just
9 weeks, you'd like to get
Yes.
the numbers.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so
All
I
right.
can raise my
Appreciate
pom-poms
you
and-
adding that to me.
Yeah,
Larry, huh?
thank you.
You're mighty good. Good to me. Thank you. Anything else?
Board members, any additional questions for Ms. Bragg? Thank you, Ms. Bragg. Board members, now we move to the Office of Business Management, Ms. Tammy McGar. And we have several items before us, information only, which is our monthly financial statements, our fund balance through budget status, our monthly combined and combining report, our monthly transfers in, transfers out report, monthly revenue budget report, monthly expenditure budget report, monthly ad valorem tax collection analysis report, and monthly announced to pay the bills. One question I have for you is, number one, welcome.
Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank
I
you.
would like to take this opportunity to thank you, as well as each of the members of the Board of Trustees, as well as Ms. McGill and the management team, for giving me the opportunity to come and work for your district. I'm very excited to be here, and I look forward to working with each of you.
Thank you very much. One question I have is with respect to our fund balance. I know that, we want to understand it a little bit better as to how, healthy our district is and how we've improved over time. Would you be able to kind of outline a couple of details for us?
I sure could. Currently, there is a state law that says that you are supposed to have 7% of your district maintenance revenues in your district maintenance fund balance. And I did an analysis going back the last 5 years, and we do have a steady increase in the fund balance of the district maintenance fund, except for a decrease from 2010 to 2011. But other years, there has been a steady increase. At the end of June 30th of 2013, you had 19.86% of your district maintenance revenues in your district maintenance fund balance, which you well exceeded that 7% that you're required to have. I have sort of done an analysis of where we should be at the end of June 30th, 2014, and if we stick to our budget, we should need $1,772,259 in the district maintenance fund balance. And we are currently sitting at over $6 million in that fund balance. So far, good job.
I think the management team deserves a little bit of applause for all the hard work. Thank you. All right.
Do you have
Now,
any additional questions?
Board members, do you have any additional questions? Moving on to item G, which is the monthly to approve the pay docket. Board members, I need a motion and a second to approve paying the bills.
So moved.
Do I have a second? I'll second that. Any discussion? All in favor of paying the bills, please signify by raising your right hand. Any opposed? It is unanimous. Now moving on to the monthly safety report. Would you like to highlight anything on the safety report for us?
We do have a list of the accidents that were reported to us by the schools. We only had incidences at Cook, and we had 2 different individuals. The first 2 on the report are 2 different SPED aides. The first one received a scratch from a student, and the second received a bite from a student. There was also a teacher that fell from a chair getting a box from the shelf, and also another teacher that slipped on food on the cafeteria floor at Cook. We also made sure that there were not any other incidences at any of the other schools.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Ms. McGar.
Any
Board members,
questions?
do you have any more questions for Ms. McGar? Thank you very much and welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, board members, we move to item number 14, which is the Board of Trustees. We have consideration to approve advertisement for Lee Middle School property in the Mississippi Business Journal. We've had time to look through the rates and also the advertisement, which was attached to our information. I need a motion and a second to approve to get to discussion. I'll second that. Discussion?
I have one question. What is the readership? I mean, how many folks would we be reaching if we place an ad in here? What would be their circulation, I guess I'm asking. Does anyone know the answer to that?
I don't know what the circulation is, Mr. Lotzenhauser, but I do know that it's across the state is widely read. I mean,
Okay.
most business people have subscriptions either online or hard copy of the
Okay.
Business Journal.
And I would say it would be a very diverse
Yeah.
group in the sense is that they don't just focus on finance. I mean, they go everything from education, real
Right.
estate. So they have a broad assortment of different areas that they try to emphasize in their publication. And so I would think that their readers are pretty diverse in what they're looking for. Any additional discussion?
Now, I do say I think the rate is attractive. I think we have a good quote from them.
I agree with that. Ms. Burdell, did you have a question? Okay. With all discussion being settled, is there anything else? All in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Any opposed? It is unanimous. Moving to item B, which was discussed earlier, which are the different policies that have been reviewed by our committee as well as MSBA that is up for consideration to table for additional review before they are put into our policy book. That is items B 1 through 22. Board members, I need a motion and a second to table these items.
So moved.
Do I have a second? The item has been properly motioned and seconded. Any discussion?
We are placing these on the table for the next 30 days, and we'll actually approve these at our next regularly scheduled board meeting. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Any additional questions or discussion? All in favor of tabling the items, please signify by raising your right hand. Any opposed? It is unanimous. Now we move to item number 15, which is the dates to remember. November the 20th, 2013 is Professional Development. Educators are Essential Appreciation Event, and the students will be released early that day. On November the 25th through the 29th, 2013, the Thanksgiving holiday will be observed by the Columbus Municipal School District employees. Item number 3, which is December the 16th, 2013, which will be our next regularly scheduled board meeting at 6 p.m. here at Brandon Central Services. Board members, moving to item number 16, which is closed determination for executive session. I need a motion. No seconds required. All in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Any opposed? It is unanimous. We'll be out shortly to inform everyone about what we'll be discussing. Thank you very much for your attendance tonight.